Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining me today. What I'm here to talk about is a little bit about what's in my chapter for the Master Female Athlete Home Study course. It was a great opportunity. I'm really pleased to have been invited to do this chapter, and I just really thank everybody in association with the home study course process. They were just great to work with. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about a section of what I did in the whole chapter, and that's exercise prescription for the master female athlete. And when we look at that exercise prescription, there's some considerations, and it's really no different than all the different exercise prescriptions we do for any of our patients. And so we want to look at all of these variables about the exercise prescription. And I'm not going to talk about each of them today. I'm going to focus in on progressive overload and the specificity we need for master female athletes to really look at making sure we maximize their bone building processes. Now, all of this other stuff is talked about in the chapter, but let's focus on just a couple things of this slide. So, when we look at both prevention, but also to stimulate that bone metabolism in our master female athletes, we need to look at a few different things. One is I have this picture of a younger female athlete in here to remind me to talk about what we want to do for prevention is really make sure that our younger female athletes are doing these things to really promote bone growth, but also to remind us that Title IX implications of this is some of our master female athletes that we're working with right now were not female athletes when they were in those younger bone building years in their adolescence as well as in their early 20s. And so our master female athletes may have done sports at that time, but it's also likely that they did not, because females at that time were not participating in high school sports because many high schools didn't have any sports for female athletes. So please keep that in mind that some of these women are not going to have experience with a ball coming towards them. Some of them are not going to have the eye hand coordination to do something like this. And you certainly don't want to put them in a position of getting injured because they're not used to what we would consider normal sporting activities. So keep that in mind. But the other thing we want to talk about is a lot of our master female athletes and a lot of our female athletes that we're doing exercise prescription with for bone metabolism purposes are doing walking. And walking is not a bad exercise. I usually start there with a lot of my female athletes or master female athletes. But walking's not enough if we really want to try to do bone building. And so we want to look at both adding strength training, we want to look at balance activities, and we want to look at high velocity activities that really train better if we look at the literature telling us if these things were included in the exercise prescription or they won't. We can see that if they are, they have a much greater chance of having built their bone and having good bone mineral density in specific areas like the spine, like the hip, those areas that we are really concerned about if someone takes a fall. So, when we talk about exercise prescription with those master athletes, we really want to make sure that we're doing what American College of Sports Medicine is recommending, plus some very specific exercises to give that overload that we need for the bone in order for it to build and sustain. So we want to look at weight bearing impact activities that are short bouts, 3 to 5 sets, like 10 to 20 jumps when we decide to add that kind of spice into their exercise prescription with plyometrics. But we may have to work up to that. We want to make sure that their exercise is moderate to high magnitude. When I'm out there working with residents or other physical therapists or instructing, what I find is that physical therapists in general are not, they're under prescribing. And so we want to make sure that they're at a moderate to high intensity and magnitude, doing things that are 2 to 3 times their body weight. which if you look at this chart that's on the right here, you can see a lunge is only a little over our body weight. Walking is only a little bit more than our body weight. What we need is running or stepping up and step up, at least with a like a 30 centimeter height or 10 inches or so. And we make sure we're doing those kind of impactful activities in order to really look at what are we doing with bone metabolism and putting them into a situation where they're sustaining or building their bone. We want to make sure it's four. I'm not a big fan of 7 days a week, but we want to make sure that they're active every day. And 4 to 6 times a week, we're doing this weight bearing impact exercise. And we want to make sure it's in multi directional patterns, one for the bone building, but also for that agility development as well as balance activities. And we want to make sure that we do multimodal exercise training. Nobody wants to do the same thing every single day. So if we change it up, we give different challenges, it makes it better from both a compliance issue, but also for weight bearing activities. That progressive resistance training and power training can really help with balance, mobility, agility if we're changing it and the body is not getting too used to the same thing over and over again. So, really look at two or more activity modes in any kind of exercise session and really look to change those and give variety to those modes as you look across the week. The other thing to make sure is we want to overall look at what those American College of Sports Medicine exercise guidelines are. And these folks should be exercising 150 minutes per week with moderate to vigorous exercise. And obviously, we don't want to do that all in one day. We want to actually have that across the week. So, combining exercise, a step class that's at 30 centimeters or above of a step, and doing movement on and off that step at diagonal, straight on and over, combining that with lunges and some strength training is really challenging our master female athletes with their balance, with their agility, adding some strength, and doing impactful activities that is also at a moderate to vigorous intensity level for that aerobic factor also. So, in summary, we really want to look at making sure our master female athletes are doing progressive resistance training at least 2 times a week, maybe more. And you can see the specifics here as far as dosage goes, but really making sure we're challenging the system. If they're getting at the end of their prescribed set and they're not fatigued, then we need to increase that intensity. We want to make sure that we're also looking at weight bearing impact activity at 2 times their body weight or above. And we can combine this with a moderate to high intensity in order to get both that benefit of weight bearing impact as well as aerobic activity. And we want to make sure we're also looking at challenging their balance and agility. So, when we get exercise prescription, we really are only limited by our own creativity and what our female athlete in front of us is looking at and wants to do. So, getting some information about what they enjoy doing, maybe it's dancing. Maybe we can actually implement some things with that activity to make that full, adding a step in there, getting some more agility and challenging their balance. If we do all of that, we're going to get good compliance. We're going to get what we want out of the exercise prescription for that client, and that client's going to have a lot of fun doing it. So, in summary, I just want to overemphasize that we can be really creative with our master female athletes, taking into consideration what they enjoy doing, but also what their experience is with what we would consider athletic movements, making sure we meet them with their balance ability, with their strength ability, and with their agility abilities so that we can do weight bearing activities that really impact both their exercise capacity but also their bone in a very beneficial way. So thank you very much.